Welcome back everybody to Extreme Off-Road Silly Builds, and today we're dealing with the 2011 BMW X5M. So this now has 1,515 horsepower, 1,101 pounds-feet of torque from a 7-litre twin-turbocharged V12 engine. The car itself now weighs 4,395 pounds, still has its all-wheel drive system, but it now has off-road tyres and off-road suspension. And it can now do 0 to 16 2.693 seconds. 0 to 104.853 seconds, and going to a top speed of 251 miles an hour. So that's fairly rapid for what is obviously still quite a heavy and large SUV, although this is probably, as far as SUVs go, one of the weakest ones in terms of general off-road capability. But that is before we obviously upgraded it, because at 8.4 that is fairly reasonably high for an off-road vehicle, or at least any vehicle on this series so far. So yeah, that is fairly strong. The launch, acceleration and top speed are also pretty good. Braking is decent. The only worry with that, stat in terms of braking is the fact that it still weighs in excess of 4,000 pounds, and we're hardly going to be going at a slow rate of speed. But the biggest concern is the handling, because we are quite high riding now, not just due to the fact that we've got a wider body kit which raises the ride height anyway, but also due to the fact that we have off-road suspension which raises it further. So yeah, we could well topple over basically, because we're going to have a much higher centre of gravity, and yeah, the handling at 4.8 is hardly the strongest either. So yeah, not anticipating this to be the easiest of cars to drive here, especially with all the extra power it's got. It's got nearly 1,000 extra horsepower of what it had originally, while being a much bigger engine as well, 4 extra cylinders. Still got twin turbo which it had originally, but yeah, 4 extra cylinders and a lot more in the way of cubic capacity means that yeah, the engine is bigger up front. Whether that's added any extra weight, I don't know about the engine weights between the original engine in this and the one we've put in, but still, it is a bigger engine, and you've got to think that it might well at least weigh a little bit more. Certainly sounds a lot different to what it did originally, that's for sure. Can this be one of the few off-road vehicles to break the trend of off-road vehicles not typically doing well here? Because it does feel a little bit tight here. It doesn't feel loose or like it's going to fall over or anything like that so far. It feels fairly solid. He's able to get up to a good rate of speed because of all that horsepower, which, although it could very well make this car uncontrollable, it is kind of necessary to get this Herculean vehicle around this course. Now granted, it's not the heaviest car that we've ever had on this series, but if we were to put in a much less powerful engine or just upgrade the standard engine, then yeah, we would be struggling for speed, but I think we've certainly got more than enough to pull this car around. The off-road suspension is working nicely with the bumps, we're not having any issues there. Certainly not the most agile of things though. But thankfully, because the all-wheel drive system is native to this car, it shouldn't have any issues dealing with that. Really confident inducing with how well this is dealing with the bumps. Don't have anywhere near the kind of rocking back and forth, or the front end bouncing up, or the rear end bouncing up, or anything like that we've seen on many a car in the series. And because it weighs quite so as much as it does, it's able to deal with any of the road furniture comfortably as well. Really does gain speed quite nicely, nearly 150 there. And although the brakes are not perfect, they're certainly not the worst brakes that we've dealt with on a car. Moving around 100 mile an hour through that corner, and that is pretty damn quick. In fact, that is the quickest BMW that we've had on this series so far at 3 minutes 12.942, beating the previous best BMW, the iX xDrive 50, which managed 3 minutes 14.906, so nearly 2 seconds quicker than that electric SUV. And yeah, 3 minutes 12.942 puts us into the top 20. Not by a huge margin, but it puts us in there regardless. I think we now land in 18th place. Yeah, we've beaten the Alfa Romeo Giulia Sprint GTA Stradale, the RJ Anderson Polaris Razor Pro 4 truck, and it knocks the Aston Martin DBR1 out of the top 20. But we are slightly slower than a Nissan Z Nismo, a McLaren Sabre, Morgan Aero GT, Lancia Delta S4, and a Fast and Furious Datsun 240Z. So yeah, there's only one of those cars, and that's a Delta S4 that you can consider an off-road vehicle, whereas everything else is a sports car, supercar, or the like, such as that. But still, you know, that was remarkably quick for a what is a £4,000 in excess vehicle. I imagine maybe outside of the electric cars at the very least, that this is the heaviest vehicle in the top 20 now. So yeah, that in itself is remarkable. Even more remarkable is the fact that it was able to go down the course as quick as it was. Despite the handling stat being on the lower side of things, it was not an issue whatsoever. Braking was decent, it had really good acceleration, was getting up to good rates of speed throughout, but more crucially, it was able to deal with the bumps and jumps without any issues whatsoever. That off-road suspension worked miracles there, because obviously this car in standard form was more focused on being a sports car more than, or at least a sports saloon, more than being a off-road vehicle, because being an M car, you had lowered suspension, wider fenders and all sorts like that, so really wasn't focused on being an off-road vehicle at all in the M version. So yeah, we've obviously turned that around and made quite a formidable vehicle. Obviously it takes quite a lot, you know, massive V12 engine and massive amounts of weight saving, but it got there eventually. So yeah, fairly impressive car, even if I don't particularly enjoy it in its stock form. Nonetheless, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.